Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now this is going to be a quick review. I had a conversation with a customer a few days ago which sort of reminded me of something I've got in the shop which I should have reviewed before, to be honest. But he was asking about record players and he was interested in something around the price for Rega Planar 6, Rega Planar 8, something with a bit of character, something, you know, but something different. He was sort of, everybody buys Rega. And I was sort of saying, well, Rega's the best sounding at the price, it's most reliable, the backup's incredible. And he said, yeah, I accept that. But he said, but I'm not a person who follows the crowd. I tend to buy slightly more obscure brands. I get a kick out of it, really. I think a lot of people do that. I do get people on the phone and they tell you what the system is, and you haven't heard of any of it. They all have particularly weird names as well. It's sort of, oh, this is it's almost as though they like that sort of exclusivity of unusual kit. So, which is great, really. I mean, they get a lot of fun out of it. So that's who am I to say? But I was kind of struggling because what's a good alternative to a Rega around that sort of money? I mean, there's plenty of decks out there, but the sort of key ones like the gyro deck and the Praxair Radius, they've sort of gone up in price, sort of out of proportion to Rega. They seem to have overtaken quite a bit now, so they're over the £2,000 mark. Project do some decent models, but there's nothing that's really in that sort of area. You have to go higher than that, really, with Project. I think usually price for price, they're more expensive than Rega to get the same quality. So it's difficult. There's like I said, there's Clear Audio Concept and things like that, which I've never really liked. I always thought it sounded a bit bland, and there's an awful lot of decks like that, which sort of have decent reputations, but in reality are a little bit insipid sound-wise. They don't really capture you like a Rega does. Then it dawned on me, I do Nottingham Analogue, and why it took a while to dawn on me, I don't know. I think it's partly because with the Nottinghams, I tend to mainly do the 294, the Hyperspace, and the Deus, which are the higher end. I forget about their sort of bread and butter models, which I have on demonstration. I just got them in the shop. There's the Interspace and there's the Spacedeck. And the Spacedeck is the one. It suddenly, like I say, it suddenly dawned on me. Of course, Spacedeck, because the Spacedeck is about 1250-ish without a tone arm, and you can put what you want on it. I mean, you can put the demonstrator in the shop, which I'll show you in a sec, actually. It's got a Rega RB330 on it, which brings it up to just over 1500, 1600. You could use it with an RB880, but then their own tone arms are very good. And their tone arms start about sort of 600 mark. So 600, 900, 1050, 2500. So there's and they are very, very good. They don't look very good. They look a little bit handmade, and not in a good way. But they do sound superb, their tone arms. So we talked about that, and that seems to be that might be the answer. He's going to come down and have a listen, whatever. But the Nottinghams have got the musicality thing that Rega have got. They're very involving, but a different presentation. They don't have this pinpoint clarity quite the same, but they've got a big, warm, very authoritative sound. All the models are like that, and they just get more of it as they go, because they just get heavier and heavier and heavier. Their way of thinking is different to Rega. Rega go ultra lightweight, and the Nottinghams go heavyweight. So you go one way or the other, really. It's just a different design principle, really. So I'll show you the Spacedeck. It's a bit of an unusual deck the way it works. It's totally different to a Rega, but as this guy was saying, I just want something that's a bit sort of different, a bit left field. That'll just, something a bit more, something interesting that's different, and it kind of fits the bill. So I'll move the camera. Let's have a look. Yeah, so there's the Nottingham Spacedeck. Really nicely sort of engineered thing. I've got sort of high gloss finish, really heavy construction. Really, like I say, superb engineering. There's one model below this, which is, like I say, is just a standard plinth deck. Like a bit like a Rega, really. Similar looking components on it, but all on a standard plinth. This is what you would almost call a component turntable, because everything is separate on here. There's a plinth at the bottom, which, just to confuse you, the third part of this bit here is just an isolation platform I'm using, but this bit here is the base. The actual deck part, which is the sort of almost like a tripod piece with the platter and the bearing on, and the little outrigger for the tone arm, that's a separate piece which just sits onto the plinth. It's not attached to it at all. You can move it to where you want on the plinth, really. And the motor itself at the back here, that's a separate component as well. That is just sitting there. but they're all sitting on little rubber feet onto this sort of high mass plinth. You don't have to use the plinth, actually. I do know a few people who use these without the plinth because they reckon that whatever they're using it on is better, but it's one of those things you can experiment with anyway. Like I say, this one's got an RB300 tone arm on it, which matches it really well. Their own tone arms are extremely good too, like I say. Mainly with the space decks, I tend to do them with little Rega 330s. A slight quirky thing about these, which is very clever actually, and I don't know why there's more turntable manufacturers don't do it. A big issue with record players is motor noise. And obviously they've isolated this so that this, the actual distance for the motor noise to get through to the stylus is broken up by little rubber feet and the distance it's got to go and everything. So that's clever, but this has got quite a heavy platter on it. So surely that will need a massive motor to get it moving. And it does, or it would, should I say. If you've got a heavy platter, you need a big motor. Now, Nottingham get round this. I mean, the motor on these is sort of hidden amongst this really sort of high mass block here. I can actually feel the resonance of it on there because it's all plugged in at the moment. And I'll explain why that's resonating in a sec. So it's sitting in a high mass thing. The motor itself is probably only that sort of size. If you compare it to like a Rega Lin motor, whatever, like a Prometech or an Airpax, they're about this sort of scale. So yeah, it's about that sort of size. It's a fraction of the size of a standard turntable motor. That's never going to start the platter. There's no way that will start the platter, but it's a very, very low vibration motor, very, very low when it's running. The way the Nottinghams work, and at first you might think this is a bit of a faffy way of using a record player. When you get used to this, you sort of wonder why nobody else does it. The way you start a Nottingham is, if you notice there's little rubber bands on here, the bottom one's the belt, but the top two are like a little grip. You just get hold of it and give it a push. And when if you push it beyond 33, it will then stay there because the motor can handle driving it at 33. What it can't handle is getting it up to 33. So the only reason you would need a bigger motor is just for that initial torque. There's the start-up torque and getting that mass moving. So why don't you just dispense with that and have a tiny motor and let the user do it? And all the Nottinghams are like that. I mean, if you go further up the range, some of their big decks, they're like 40, 50 kilo platters, and there's no way that you're going to get a motor to start that up that isn't, the size of an alternator of a car or something. You need something ridiculously big to get that platter moving. So, a bit of genius from that point of view. So, small motor, minimal noise from it, quite a difficult sort of track for any vibration to work its way back to the stylus. So it's just a really clever design, and that comes across in sort of the clarity and the sort of separation of instruments. The mass of the platter gives you this very solid soundstage that sort of feels like it's sort of carved out of a solid piece of rock almost. It's got a really solid sound. All the Nottinghams have this, and the further you go up the range, the more impressive they are from that. But some of the big Nottinghams have got just tremendous sound stages. I mean, very realistic placement of instruments and that sort of thing. So, yeah, the Spacedeck is kind of the first step into that, really. What you can do with the Spacedeck, and I wish that to be honest, I wish that Rega did this. And Rega don't really offer any upgrade parts, and other manufacturers have other sort of enthusiasts more than manufacturers have stepped in to fill that gap and created all these things for Regas. It does worry me a little bit because a lot of the things that produce for Regas aren't that great a quality really, but they sort of seem to get momentum on forums and people decide that this is the thing to do. Nottingham themselves actually produce a few things that you can improve the deck with. There's a separate off-board power supply for it. There's what they call a heavy kit, which is it's basically a record player mat, but it's something like an inch thick, and it's just basically plonk it on the top. There's a machined piece that fits into there to give you the extra height, and a machined spacer for the tone arm, which lifts the tone arm up. Something like 3/4 of an inch, I think, or might even be an inch. So you end up with a platter that's this sort of thickness, and it's made of some sort of graphite composite material. I'm not quite sure, I can't remember what it is. I think it involves graphite, I think. But it gives even more mass to the platter, and it's a much deader material, and that makes a big difference to a Spacedeck. And the power supply does as well. Even though it's a tiny, tiny motor, having a cleaner supply to it makes quite a big difference as well. So there's ways you can go with it. And obviously with the Spacedeck, you can easily upgrade the tone arm. I mean, Rega, you could do that with the Rega, but you probably wouldn't. Whereas the Spacedeck, I've had, this is an RB330 on here. I've had 880s. I think I've had a 3000. I was just trying to remember whether it was a 3000 or an earlier 2000 tone arm on one of these. And obviously their own tone arms are very good. And like I say, they look a little bit Heath Robinson, their tone arms, but they do work really, really well. They're better than a lot of things, actually, theirs. Certainly cheaper than a lot of their competition. So, but yeah, really good value. Actually looks pretty stylish, to be honest. I mean, it's probably not gyrodeck level of sort of artistry as far as hi-fi goes, because I think a lot of people buy gyrodecks because they do look like a work of art. I don't think it's quite at that level, but it's an interesting looking record player, and sounds amazing. I just really love it. Obviously, there's no lid. I think the project accessory cover that you can get will fit one of these, or you could buy the Jean-Michel uni cover that just sits over the top of the platter. What we haven't shown you is how to stop it, and basically just get your hand on it and just stop. That's it, stopped. Dead clever. I don't know why other manufacturers don't do that. So you can have such a massive platter on there and not worry about the size of the motor. So anyway, yeah, that's the Nottingham Analogue. Yeah, I hope you like that. I mean, I've been listening to that Spacedeck pretty much all week now. I've actually had it set up in the top dem room. It was set up for a customer a while ago. Was it midweek last week, I think it was, and been listening to it quite a bit really. But it's with neat Magistras, which are amazing. Probably one of my favourite stand mounts at the moment, the Magistra. I've said this before. I need to do a review on those because they sound really good. And driving them, even though they're hard to drive, driving them with the little Illicit Mark 5 there, which surprised me that it seems totally happy driving them. So let's go off and talk about things I didn't intend to talk about. But anyway, yeah, I hope you like that. Don't forget to give a subscribe and a like. I'll see you in a future video. I was going to say something else then, it completely went out of my head. I'll see you in a future video. There will be news. Actually, I will be doing a news video soon because there's a couple of things happening. So I'll probably in the next week or so. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.